if you're new to RVing, not only is it okay for you to post videos to YouTube, but I think in a way it's probably even better than some of the experienced people posting YouTube videos. Hey friends! So Justin and I have lived, worked, and traveled in this RV for over a year and a half now. We've seen most of the country as we've been looping around and going here and there, and it has been a total blast. It took me a little bit to get my act together with YouTube, but when I first started posting videos, the first video that I actually got up and everything was about 4 or 5 months into our full-time trip in the RV. Now, prior to going full-time in the RV, we had actually bought it about 6 months prior, and we'd done a few test trips to see what we wanted to change on the RV, to make sure the internet worked, to see how we liked the pace of RV travel before we got into things too much, to test our tow setup, and that was really great. But we weren't super experienced. We were only 6 months with the part-time with those few travel trips before we went full-time, and then we'd only been on the road 4 months when I started posting videos here on the RVing Castle channel. And I'll tell you, there were a few people that were a little bit confused why we would document our journey from the beginning, why new people would be on YouTube posting their experience. After all, what can newbies show you? All of that. Well, there are multiple reasons for this. I'll talk about the big one last, the one that I think is the most important, but a few other reasons briefly. This isn't just for you guys, this is for us as a family, and I wanted to document as much of the journey as I could. I actually honestly wish I had been more comfortable with filming and video editing when we first set out than I was. I wasn't. I was a complete newbie when we started with this, and I actually learned for this trip we were going on. But, you know, it was this idea we were going on this trip of a lifetime, and I wanted to document this for us as a family. I wanted to have that available. And while I was doing that anyway, I might as well put it on YouTube. I've talked about this a little bit, but my full-time job is working online. I do writing. I'm a content creator. I have an e-commerce business that I run with some friends of mine. Like, I work online for my living. I already do a lot of social media work, so it was really a no-brainer to learn YouTube and do that as well on the side while I was doing this anyway for our family. So that's the first thing. Another thing is I really found it really helpful to watch some of the earlier channels. There's a place for seeing how people who aren't used to it will do the RV life, because you get a sense of, okay, well, I'm not necessarily going to be as with it as these people who have been doing this 5, 10, 20, 30 years. I'm going to be more like these newbies, and kind of watching what they run into and the pitfalls they run into was really helpful to me. And that kind of leads me into the major reason why I think that if you're new to RVing, that not only is it okay for you to post videos to YouTube, but I think in a way it's probably even better than some of the people who are experienced in RVing posting YouTube videos. Now this is gonna get people all in an uproar, because I've literally seen the comment sections elsewhere that are on channels where somebody started when they've been doing it 4, 5, 6 years, and it'll say, oh, I'm so glad all these people that come out, they don't know what they're doing, they're posting videos, blah, 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 blah. I'm just really mad that newbies have RV channels. No, you can be mad about whatever you want, but there's something really important here that when people have that point of view that they're not really thinking about, and that is something called the curse of knowledge. So what's the curse of knowledge? Well, it's a psychological phenomenon whereby somebody, the more that they learn about a topic, they forget that people don't know what they know. So as you become more expert at something, what is obvious seems like it doesn't need to be said, but for a new person, they need to know these obvious things. So somebody who's extremely experienced and very expert isn't going to be a good teacher for people that are new to a discipline. They are actually better at teaching people who are intermediate or advanced. They know that extra 10, 20, 30% that builds upon a base of knowledge that has already been built. They actually are going to have a hard time remembering what it was like to be a newbie and iterating and talking about all the dumb no-brainers. Well, they should know sorts of things. They're not going to be as much of a natural at the basic beginner instruction and knowing what are the weird bits, what are the things that are hard to adjust to, as a person who is starting out and having that culture shock and being like, oh gosh, like here's this new lesson I learned, or who is kind of working towards that intermediate phase. And so because of that, it is extremely important that there are teachers at all levels. It's wonderful that there are people who are very experienced and advanced at RV life, travel, RV repair, all that good stuff. I love them. I've learned so much from them. Thank you. At the same token, it's important to have people that are starting out to really underscore the things that the experts have forgotten. that I've gotten used to, the things that, oh, well, I don't have to explain that. And this is not just limited to RV life, mind you. This is true in every area of life. I bet if you think about it, you'll realize, you'll be like, oh yeah, you know, that's funny. Like, you might have a friend who is a really exceptional cook, for example, who's really wonderful in the kitchen, but they're not necessarily always the best one to teach somebody to cook if they're really, really struggling, if they don't have basic skills. They might be wonderful with somebody that's a competent cook, but not virtuosic like them. They might be great at showing them kind of tips and tricks and things that are at their level, but for somebody that doesn't even know what all the knives are called, it might be very frustrating for them to teach them and take them a lot longer. And if you think of a situation with YouTube, it's different when you have the student right there, right? So if you're in the room with somebody, you're teaching them to cook, you can be like, oh, no. See, well, they're like, I don't even know it. Well, you can say, okay, well, here are the knives. And here's what they called. And they'll be like, well, I don't know how to chop an onion. And you can show them chopping an onion and teach them that. Because you'll know that, and you'll know that your student doesn't know that. But if you're in a situation with YouTube, they're not in the room with you. You're not watching them get confused. And a lot of times the student might not even know where the knowledge gap is. They might not know that there's something that should be taught to them that they don't know, especially with something like RVing, which is a lot more niche than cooking. So yeah, so that's why I think that new RVers should post to YouTube, and that there's a place for everybody on YouTube at all levels of knowledge. People who are new to RVing can make a lot of mistakes. And as long as they're honest about those mistakes when they're teaching and they're posting, then it can only help anyone who's looking to get into this life and who's new to it to learn from those mistakes and maybe not pay the same price. Yep, it was great talking to you as always. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.